in Germany. So it's one of those situations, I think, where if he comes into the team, only good can come from it.
Yeah, absolutely right. There's been some good at Murrayfield because Scotland are 30 minutes into their Calcutta Cup, a rugby match, Six Nations match against England. Scotland are leading by 10-6 there, and we have a result from earlier on. Ireland beat Wales 37-27. So if Scotland do get the points against England, it sets up that Six Nations wonderfully, Mike, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Ireland got a bonus point as well because they scored 5 tries. So that means that it's really, really... the pressure's on England because obviously Ireland would then be a point ahead of them at the top if England were to turn that around. But wouldn't it be lovely to see Scotland beat England and maybe just shake things up a bit in that? Because otherwise England have won it 3 years in a row.
Absolutely right. So that Leon Bailey story was on the back page of The Voice. This is The Voice, a sports show for good reason. You can buy the newspaper every Thursday in the shops. You can download the app as well. And for all the breaking news, visit all the W's voice-online.co.uk. This is The Voice, a sports show. Well, how can you listen to ABN? It's all the W's, abnradiouk.com. If you have a fancy DAB radio, you can do that as well, or you can use a tuning app on your phone or your iPad. Anne-Marie, during the course of the week, I know you were present at the Kick It Out function.
I was.
Based on managers. Just tell us a little bit about how that went, what was the thinking there, and what your view of it was.
So the event was organised by Kick It Out under the Raise Your Game banner, and it was a debate about black managers in the Premier League and in football industry as a whole, whether you're a coach, administrator, or work in sports media, or even a player or as a manager. And there were attendees from right across the board who were listening to 2 panels. The first panel was from delegates from governance, so you had a representative from the Premier League there, PFA and other bodies, and then the second part was about coaching, which I found really, really interesting, and listening to stories of people of colour who are now working in their game and how they got to where they are today. And it was at times uncomfortable, but I think it had to be uncomfortable what was said, because I think the general consensus is, even though we are where we are today, there is still a lot of work to be done, and maybe we should start now looking at those organisations like the FA, like the PFA, like the Premier League, who should be leading us in terms of encouraging more diversity rather than talking it and not walking it.
Yeah, and of course we had in the audience Chris Hughton, the Brighton manager, and we had Chris Ramsey, who's doing great work at Queen's Park Rangers.
Absolutely, and both those clubs were held up in terms of Brighton and QPR as leading lights of being very progressive in their thinking in terms of recruitment, whether it is somebody sitting around the board table down to somebody coaching the under-5s at the clubs.
Absolutely right. And it was lovely to see a woman represented when the managers panel took place.
Amira, that's her name. Amira, yes.
A wonderful story. I mean, while she was a little bit nervous while she was speaking, she was a wonderful example of feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yes, as a woman and as a Muslim as well. And she said all she wanted to do was just get involved in the game. And it was just by chance she got into a conversation with somebody at a Raise Your Game conference, who then invited her down to first shadow a couple of coaching sessions with some children, and then she started taking on coaching sessions, and she's still doing it today. And it just brings her much joy as I said, as a young Muslim woman who is now working in the game, and somebody I hope that we will get into the studio so we can have a proper chat with her and her achievements in the next few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, they suggested to me, Anne-Marie, being there, that there's an awful lot of talent that just needs an opportunity, doesn't it?
I think that's exactly right. It's always about the opportunity. When these discussions comes up, it's always about, well, it should be the best person for the job. But in terms of getting that best person in, you've got to have the opportunity, and that is what's lacking. For a long time now, that door has been closed, and it's slowly opening, but there's much more work that needs to be done.
Absolutely right. Hold that thought. We will come back to that Kick It Out, Raise Your Game managers debate. The players coming out soon. I can see Fulham versus Wolves. That should be an absolute cracking game, Mike, shouldn't it?
Definitely, yeah. I've got Watford Everton as well, so we'll keep you across both those tea time games.
Absolutely. So we're going to just deflect from football for a moment. Last week we were talking about George Groves and Chris Eubank Jr. For me, didn't illuminate my Saturday evening, that fight. Tonight, at the York Hall in Bethnal Green, a real traditional boxing venue. Trust me, it's a little bit like a set out of Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels when you go down there, yeah? What do we have tonight? We have Anthony Yard fighting for the WBO Intercontinental and European Light Heavyweight Championship. And we have Daniel Dubois, wonderful name, Southern Area Heavyweight Championship taking place. A man that will be ringside is a friend of ABN, most certainly a friend of the Voice of Sport, journalist Ayo Odemade. How are you, sir?
Good evening from a very chilly York Hall in Bedford. I'm waiting outside for the doors to open. I just came up from the underground.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to go.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for your time as always. So, last week, in fact, no, before, if you know, since you're waiting, let's keep you busy, keep you on your toes. Just before we preview tonight's action at the York Hall, please share with me your thoughts on Groves versus Eubank Jr. last week.
From George Groves' point of view, I think it was a masterclass. He said what he was going to do, and he did it to a T. He schooled Chris Eubank. Although what I would say about Chris Eubank is, I wouldn't say he was humiliated. He wasn't that he didn't come to fight. He came to fight. It's just that I think he only came with plan A, whereas George Groves had plan A, B, C, and D. Yep. He covered all bases.
Mm-hmm. What now for the winner, Mr. Groves? Where does he go? Obviously now, with a dislocated shoulder, he may not be able to fight in the final of that series. But that aside, is there riches... Sorry, even more riches, because I think he gathered about 5 million last week, we were told. Where does he go with his career now? Because he's been around the block a little while as George Groves, hasn't he, Ayo?
Yes, he's been around the block where he can basically go anywhere where he wants to go. Mm. I think he's a man who is in control of his destiny.
Yes.
Unfortunately, though, boxing is not... The boxing this side of the pond is not... You know, it's not within their remit to say, yeah, I'm the champion, you have to go... I mean, you have to come to me. Because put it this way, he needs to pay bills just like everybody else. So sometimes people looking after him might need to go out there and go and look for suitable fights for him.
Yeah, well done, George Groves. Hope the shoulder gets better soon. So, on the other side of the fence, and maybe more intriguingly, where does Mr. Eubank Jr. go from here, Ayo?
Well, I think for starters, back to the drawing table for starters. He has to look at himself. Look at, the team he's got surrounding him.
Does that include his father?
You and I spoke with him. You and I spoke during the week. Mm. We see some father-son, relationships that blossom.
Yeah.
I think his father has taken him to a point where he should not be afraid, and his father should probably take a backseat. I'm not saying his father can't advise him, but I think he's got to a stage now where he needs a proper trainer in there.
Absolutely.
A world-class trainer.
Yep. Okay. Well, listen, that was last week. Tonight is tonight. Mr. Anthony Yard is fighting Mr. Avalant this evening for the Light Heavyweight Championship, WBO Intercontinental and European title. Now, I know you've been around Anthony Yard for a while. You've done the press conferences. You formed a working relationship with him. Is this guy the next gen, and is he the real deal?
Yes. It ticks both boxes for me.
Yep.
I think he's something special. Mm-hmm. What we don't know is, can he take a punch? But guess what? Some boxers you will never find out.
Yeah, of course, because they're too good.
We never found out until Mike Tyson started to not take training seriously. Because when he didn't take training seriously, that we found out that he could be hit.
Yeah.
But Anthony Yard is somebody who is still at the beginning of his journey. Yeah. He's as hungry as they come, very dedicated to his work. I think it will be, no disrespect to Mr. Avalant, I think it will be quick work again, a short night today for him. And then it will be a case of maybe 3 or 4 more fights. But then you never know. One of those 3 or 4 more fights, one of the, you know, the marquee light heavyweights might well reach out to and say, look, okay, let's see what you got. There might be an offer on the table which you might find hard to refuse. And, you know, Mr. Frank Warren might just say, you know what, let's do it.
Mr. Warren has landed on his feet again with Mr. Yard, hasn't he?
I think that's his marquee boxer. Although I didn't attend the press conference, I, you know, got a gist of it. And let's just say him being on the top of the card here, it's the first time that Anthony Yard has, you know, headlined the show. I think quietly Frank Warren is rubbing his hands because he's, put it this way, he's got something special, and he's obviously got access basically via TV to showcase his skills.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. Now, you've interviewed Mr. Yard a couple of times, and you've got close to him, as I said earlier on. What sort of guy is he away from the ring? You know, what sort of traits can you tell us about?
A down-to-earth guy. He's one of these people, you know, brought up in the East End, but who just decided that, look, I don't want my story to be one of these typical stories. He's been around, you know, what I would call, he's been on the streets, but he's decided, you know what, the streets are not for him.
Yeah.
When I spoke with him, he's told me that, you know, he's seen people dying around him. Yeah. And he's chosen not to go through that path. And basically, like quite a few people, boxing has come to his rescue.
Right. Okay, so Mr. Yard is the headline act against Mr. Avalant. The other, quite literally, big attraction is Southern area. Is the heavyweight, Mr. Dubois.
Triple D.
Triple D.
Triple D, they call it.
Now you're smiling.
Dangerous or devastating. The reason is,
yeah.
Before you ask me the question,
yeah.
I can already give you the answer.
Go for it.
He's a man who doesn't say much. He will tell you, we will see when we get in the ring.
Okay.
What I can tell you, the last fight I witnessed, he hit the guy so hard, the guy's head bounced off the canvas, and it was oxygen time.
Oh, dear. The brutality of professional sport.
Yes. The boy is a quiet assassin. And I believe already, you know, before Anthony Joshua gets to his peak, at the top of this, you know, the summit proper, you know, unifying all the belts, we have already seen the possible heir apparent to the heavyweight.
That's a huge statement there. I mean, Anthony Joshua still got lots of good work to do, and you think Mr. Dubois might be the heir apparent. Why? What makes you say that?
I've seen the guy.
Yeah.
So down to earth, cool, and I've also had a chance to speak with his dad as well.
Yeah.
Both down to earth, very respectful guy, feet on the ground, very dedicated, trains hard, and he's not one for. If anybody's looking for somebody to promote a fight, he's not a promoter. That's Frank Warren's job. His job is to go in there. All he would tell you, he's a man of few words. He would say, "We'll see when we get in there."
Yeah.
So if anyone tries to rile him or, you know, do some psychological nonsense by saying, "I'm going to knock you," he'll just say, "We'll see when we get in there." And trust me, those boys' hands do speak.
Your voice has gone up a few octaves when you're talking about Triple D. So you're obviously excited about what you see. So Mr. Yard, Mr. Dubois will keep you entertained. Do you see them going on to be champions of the world if things go well for them?
Possibly. Rodney, let's get one thing straight. Nothing in life is certain. As much as I would like to, you know, get on the phone and say to you, yes, they could become world champions. We've had guys like, without trying to be negative, Kirtland Lang. Yeah. And what's that other guy's name? That's it, Harold Graham. Yeah. Who we know are very skilled and, you know, had the potential to be world champions. Moments away from being world champion, and one punch, it's all over.
Yeah, absolutely
but they do have, what it is, you said the word, it's potential.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, listen, thanks for your input on that, but I can't let you go as a big Manchester United fan without asking you about tomorrow. Manchester United versus Chelsea, how do you see that one going briefly?
It's Old Trafford. I think it'll be a high-octane, high-energy game. The game plan will probably be similar to last season. But I think this time, because we've got Mr. Sanchez, we'll be more...
He's yet to turn up at the party, though, hasn't he?
I was going to say that, actually. That's
he's yet to turn up. Maybe tomorrow's his invite to turn up at the party.
I can hear Miss. Is that Crystal in the background?
No, this is Anne-Marie. This is Anne-Marie Batson, not
Anne-Marie
Crystal.
Batson. Oh, Lord Batson's daughter.
There you go. There
Good
you go.
afternoon, ma'am. Hello. We will meet one day. Don't worry.
course.
You can
Well,
tell
put it-
ABN
well-
listeners, we're a family here. All these journos are family.
We are.
Yeah. So now that you know who's in the studio with me, you see United win tomorrow, yeah?
Yes, United win.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be easy, but I just see United.
And one quick last question, because we're going into the break. What's the scenario? Pogba versus Mourinho. Obviously, there can only be one winner, and it's not the black guy. What's going on there? Is it just a disciplinary scenario? Mourinho flexing his muscles?
I think partly disciplinary scenario, but if you watched him in the game against Seville,
Yeah.
you can see that clearly Pogba is not fit.
Yeah.
I genuinely believe he wasn't well.
Yeah.
Because I've heard,
Yeah.
stories. I've seen the headlines, people trying to say, oh, he made a miraculous recovery. 1 minute he wasn't well, he couldn't play on this game, and then all of a sudden he's made a recovery to stay on the bench, and after 50 minutes he came on. There's only one winner there. Look, they'll sort it out. But it's the biggest challenge for both of them. I'll start with Mourinho.
Okay.
If the boy leaves Old Trafford, Mourinho's in trouble.
Yeah.
In trouble in terms of his image, and they'll say, there you go. We let a young player go, he's come back, and Mourinho sent him away again. On the other hand, Paul Pogba's come back for unfinished business. If he decides to, cry off, then people will say, well, you came back to prove yourself at Old Trafford, and you failed. There may well be other teams thinking, you know what, at the slightest thing, this guy might say, you know what, I'm not happy here.
Io, listen, thanks for your input. I hope things get a lot warmer for you at York Hall, Bethnal Green. Thanks for your time. No doubt we'll catch up soon, yeah?
Always a pleasure.
No worries, take care. That was Io Adamade, live and direct and very cold at York Hall, Bethnal Green. He'll be watching Daniel Dubois in action against Mr. Jones and Anthony Yard up against Mr. Avalant. Both Dubois and Yard are the next generation of British fighters that we think will earn, obviously, British, European and world titles. We're going to take a quick break and we're going to go into the last segment of the Voice of Sport show.
ABN Radio.
London!
London's Afropolitan radio station.
Your weekday mornings just got exciting. Tune into the new London City Show and get your day started on a happy note.
Happy mornings with Nayoka on the London City Show.
Wake up to a happy and exciting morning with me, Naoko Wari, on the London City Show, 7 to 10 a.m. on ABN Radio.
Happy mornings with Nayoka on the London City Show.
The London City Show is brought to you by ABN TV, Sky Channel 235, UK's favorite black broadcaster, trailing exciting, compelling and informative programs. Visit abntv.co.uk to catch up with all of your favorite telenovelas.
I got caught in an addiction and I couldn't find my way out of that cardboard box.
It kept grasping onto me. Before I realised it, I couldn't stop using it.
Comes like a primal instinct. It's god-awful.
I needed a program that would save my life, and I found Narconon.
Narconon gave me my life back, 100%. Call Narconon today at 01435 512 460. 01435 512 460.
It's very scary to get onto the property ladder. No, it's not. Yes, it is. 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 No, it's not.
Lay away your fears about the property market. Watch out for the new property and lifestyle show in association with On Point Property Limited, coming soon on ABN Radio, London's Afropolitan radio station.
This is ABN Radio.
It's really my type of music.
We play your genre of music.
So I feel like you need to play something for me.
For you?
Oh, just for me and everybody else watching, but mostly for me.